By the end of the lesson, I will be able to identify parts of a variable expression in order to simplify the expression. This video will show you how to distribute before combining like terms. So the first one, we know that we're going to have to distribute because I see parentheses. So if I see parentheses, I know that I'm going to have to distribute something. And that something that I have to distribute is the number that is immediately outside the parentheses. It's touching one of the parentheses. So I'm going to circle the parentheses, and then I'm going to draw my arrows. So I'm going to distribute to both terms on the inside. When I distribute both terms on the inside, the -4 that is out front does nothing. And then I'm going to have 7 times 1, which is a +7. And I'm going to have 7 times -3, which is -21. And 21's last name is M. Now that I've distributed, I'm going to combine like terms. So I'm going to draw my lines underneath my families. So -4 is going to be in the same family as +7, and -21M is going to be in its own family, so I'm going to double underline it. So adding the coefficients, a -4 fighting a +7, positives are going to win by 3, and -21M is just going to stand alone. Proper notation is going to have you write variables first and followed by the variable. Then you're going to have your constants. I will accept either one of those. I will accept 3 minus 21M or -21 plus 3. Okay, I'm going to distribute. But notice that there is not a number by or exactly squished up against the parentheses. So what I'm going to have to draw is an imaginary 1 right here. And that imaginary 1 is going to represent a -1. Why is it a negative? Because I can add the opposite right here, and that gives me a -1. Same with inside the parentheses. I can add a negative right here. Because we don't like subtraction, we're going to add the opposite. Next thing that we're going to do is circle the number that we're going to distribute. And what we're going to distribute is this -1, and we're going to distribute it to all terms inside the parentheses. So we're going to distribute it to the 9, and we're also going to distribute it to the -10. So the first thing that I'm going to write down is the -2n that we did nothing with. -1 times 9 is going to give me a -9, and -1 times -10 is going to give me a +10, and don't forget 10's variable or its last name, which is n. Next, I'm going to underline my families. So I have a -2n in the same family as +10n. -9 is in its own family, so it's getting a double underline. I'm going to add the coefficients or add their first names. So I'm going to start with -2n and +10. Positives are going to win by 8. So when I combine like terms, I get 8n minus 9 because 9 is in its own family. I'm going to make sure that my terms in my final answer do not have the same variables and that they are not like terms. So 8n has a different last name than -9. So I know that this is my final answer because I cannot simplify it any farther. I'm going to distribute the 10 to all things inside the parentheses because there are 10 groups of 6a minus 1. So I'm going to circle 10 because that's what I'm going to distribute. Then I'm going to draw my arrows as to what I'm going to distribute to. So there are two terms, positive 6a and -1 is what I'm going to distribute to. I'm going to write down the first 9a because I did nothing with it. I'm going to multiply 10 times 6a to get me a positive 60a, and a 10 times -1 to get me a 10. Next, I'm going to underline like terms. So I have a positive 9a combining with a positive 60a. And then negative 10 does not have a as a last name, so it's in its own family. I'm going to combine by adding the coefficients of 9a and 60a to get 69a minus 10. Make sure that your terms are not like terms because their last names are different. So if I have terms that have different last names, I know that this is my final answer in simplest form. I'm going to indicate that this is a -5. I think about this subtraction sign as a negative, but if you do not, you need to add the opposites every time that you see subtraction. And I'm going to add the opposite in here because I see subtraction. So I'm going to now circle what I'm going to distribute, which is this -5. I'm going to draw my arrows, which are indicating that I'm going to multiply this 5 by all terms inside the parentheses. Writing down the 10 because I did nothing with it. -5 times 9 is -45n because n is its last name. -5 times -9 is a positive 45. I'm going to underline my like terms. So I have a positive 10 and I have a positive 45. -45n is in its own family because it's not a constant. So I'm going to write down -45n because your variables come first and then your coefficients go last. So 10 plus 45 is 55. Making sure that my terms do not have the same last name or that they are not like terms. If they are not, then that is my final answer. I'm going to go through and change all of my subtraction to add the opposite so I don't forget that. Then I'm going to circle the integer that I'm going to distribute. So -9 is going to distribute to 6m, and I'm also going to multiply it by this -3. Notice that we have double distribution because this 6 over here also needs to be distributed to its parentheses. So I have a 6 and I'm going to distribute it to both things inside its parentheses. So I'm going to multiply 6 times 1 and I'm also going to multiply 6 times 4m. Writing down my multiplication because when I distribute I'm multiplying. So I have -9 times 6m, which is going to give me a -54m. I have a -9 multiplying by a -3, which is going to give me a positive 27. Then I'm going to distribute my 6. So 6 times 1 is going to give me a positive 6. And 6 times a positive 4m is going to give me a positive 24m. Next step is to underline my like terms. So I have a -54m that I'm going to give a single underline to, along with this positive 24m. Positive 27 is going to start my second family, and it's in the same family as the constant 6. So the term that has the variable is going to go first. So -54 is going to fight a positive 24. And negatives are going to win by 30, and their last name is M. And if I add 27 plus 6, I'm going to get 33. I know that this is in simplest form because I've distributed. -30 is in simplest form. That's as far as I can go. 3. So I know that this answer is in